The year was 1979. Richard Miller's life had narrowed to silence. His wife, Anne, had been gone for 2 long years, and the house they once dreamed of filling with children was hollow, echoing with emptiness. At just 34, Richard spent most evenings sitting alone at his worn kitchen table, staring at the cracked wallpaper, listening to the old clock tick as if mocking him. People in town whispered that he should remarry, move on, start over. But Richard didn't want to start over. He wanted to keep a promise. Anne's last words, whispered from her hospital bed, still clung to him like breath. "Don't let love die with me. Give it somewhere to go." That promise led him, one rainy evening, to St. Mary's Orphanage on the edge of the city. His truck had broken down nearby, and he only went inside to borrow a phone. But the muffled cries of babies pulled him down a narrow corridor. There, in a small room, he found them. 9 baby girls, all dark-skinned, all with wide brown eyes and fragile arms reaching up from their cribs. Their cries weren't in unison. It was a desperate chorus. Aching, uneven, begging for someone to care. A young nurse noticed his frozen stare. She whispered, "They came together. Left on church steps in the middle of the night. No note, no names. Just 9 little lives wrapped in the same blanket." Richard's heart sank. 9. The nurse lowered her voice even further. "No one wants them. People come here willing to adopt one, maybe 2, but never all. They'll be separated soon." That word, separated, stabbed through him. He thought of Anne. He thought of love finding somewhere to grow. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled. "What if someone took all of them?" The nurse almost laughed. "All 9? Sir, that's impossible. You're one man. People will think you've lost your mind." But Richard wasn't listening anymore. He stepped closer. One baby looked at him with startling intensity. Another reached for his sleeve. Another smiled with toothless gums. And in that instant, something inside him cracked open. The ache he carried turned into something heavier, but alive. Responsibility. "I'll take them," Richard whispered. The paperwork was a war. Social workers called it reckless. Relatives called it foolish. Neighbors muttered, "What's a white man doing with 9 black babies?" Some spat crueler things. But Richard didn't back down. He sold his truck, his tools, even Anne's jewelry. He begged for extra shifts at the factory. He patched roofs on weekends. He scrubbed dishes in a diner at night. Every dollar went to bottles, formula, diapers, and cribs he built with his own hands. The house transformed from hollow silence to chaos, sleepless nights, laundry lines sagging with 9 sets of baby clothes, bottles boiling on the stove. He learned to braid tiny curls with clumsy fingers, learned which lullabies calmed which child, learned to count their breaths in the dark when fear kept him awake. The world didn't stop judging. At parks, mothers pulled their children closer. In grocery stores, strangers stared. Once, a man spit at Richard's boots and sneered, "You'll regret this!" But regret never came. Instead came moments. The first time all 9 laughed together, pure music that rattled the walls. The sight of them crawling in a row like a living train. The weight of 9 little bodies piled on him after a storm cut the power. They were his and he was theirs. Years rolled on, each girl carving her own identity. Sarah had the loudest laugh. Ruth clung to his shirt whenever strangers came near. Naomi and Esther were partners in crime, sneaking cookies at midnight. Leah, tender and gentle, was the peacemaker. Mary, quiet but fierce, took her first steps before anyone else. Hannah, Rachel, and little Deborah were inseparable, filling the house with endless noise. To the outside world, they were the Miller 9. To Richard, they were simply his daughters. But the whispers never ended. Why would a white man adopt 9 black girls? Is he doing it for attention? Is he even right in the head? Richard never answered. He just showed up, bagged lunches in hand, shoes bought after weeks of saving, hair braided before school. Money was always scarce. Many nights he skipped meals so the girls wouldn't. He patched their clothes until fabric frayed to threads, and when bills piled up like enemies, he sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. But whenever his daughters looked at him, they saw strength, and that strength kept him going. There were blessings, too. Homemade birthday cakes that collapsed in the middle but tasted sweet. Christmas mornings filled with laughter and gifts wrapped in old newspaper. Summer nights spent under the stars. Richard telling stories about Anne, the mother they never met, but who lived in every sacrifice he made. Slowly, against every odd, the girls grew. They studied hard. They protected each other. They pushed back against a world that doubted them. But time is merciless. By the late 1990s, Richard's hair had gone gray, his back bent. One by one, the girls left for college, for jobs, for new lives. The house that had once shaken with noise fell quiet again. The night the last daughter moved out, Richard sat alone on the couch, staring at a photo of 9 toddlers lined up like pearls on a string. His lips trembled as he whispered into the silence. "I kept my promise, Anne." Decades passed. The Miller 9 flourished. Teachers, nurses, artists, mothers. They built their own families but never drifted too far. Every holiday they returned, their laughter filling his modest home until the walls themselves seemed to glow. And now, 46 years later, in 2025, Richard sat in a grand armchair, frail but proud, eyes still sharp. Around him stood 9 women, no longer little girls, but radiant, confident women. They wore matching cream dresses, their arms around him, their faces close, smiles blooming like sunlight. Cameras flashed. Headlines spread. In 1979, he adopted 9 black girls. See them now. But for Richard, it wasn't about headlines. It was about this moment, the circle completed. The babies no one wanted had become women the world admired. And he, the man everyone doubted, had lived long enough to see it. Grace, one of his daughters, leaned close, whispering through tears. "Dad, you did it. You kept us together." Richard's lips curved into a trembling smile. His voice, weak but steady, replied, "No, we did it. Love did it." The room fell into silence as each daughter leaned in, encasing his fragile frame. 9 strong women surrounding the man who once chose them when no one else would. And for the first time in 46 years, Richard allowed himself to weep openly. Because the promise was not only kept, it had blossomed.